Major League Baseball trade deadline action yesterday. Not a lot of action on the field for game numbers volume, right? 3 total games yesterday, but you did have a lot of action in that Reds and Atlanta Braves game that we did talk about. But heading into the night, how about this one? Carlos Correa reuniting with the Houston Astros after leading Minnesota. Minnesota going to pick up a lot of that salary. And looking at Correa going back to the Astros, pretty good career here, right? You take a look at a 3-time All-Star, 2017 World Series champion with Houston from 2015 to 2021. He returns back. They need some extra pop in the lineup, and maybe he can stay healthy and give them that extra pop here. In 2025, you see the statistics, 7 home runs and 31 RBIs. Got to be happy to leave the Twin Cities, which is a straight-up sale right now. You want a fire sale? It happened in Minnesota. The Houston Astros, known for making deep runs in the playoffs, they fortify that lineup with Carlos Correa yesterday.
Yeah, well, I think it also signals that with Houston, just making the playoffs is not a big win here. They are making moves in order to be able to get a good run at this. And what they needed and what they know, by the way, they know they lost Paredes, right? So they knew they needed to address this. And Carlos Correa is still living in the offseason in Houston, very familiar with this team, the area. He's got a lot of friends and family there. It's a win-win situation for both, because you mentioned Correa's leaving a Minnesota organization that who was so over the top in salaries and now really doesn't have any salaries anymore. They binge and purge there. But don't forget, Houston's got all these starting pitchers and relievers coming back here over the next couple of weeks. So they are in prime position to be able to make another run at it, if you can believe it.
He also adding Jesus Sanchez yesterday from the Miami Marlins to sort of, again, put a little bit more pop in that lineup. We always know if that starting pitching is healthy there, that bullpen should be able to come around. Jose Altuve, always a mainstay, gets his boy back in Carlos Correa, and we'll see if they can make a run. Other acquisitions yesterday, because the deadline was fantastic all day long. The question marks were, are the rich going to get richer? And typically that's what happens here. We've known the Padres to make moves in the past, but the Padres yesterday were absolutely on fire. Mason Miller, J.P. Sears, Nestor Cortez, Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano, Freddie Fermin. It almost looks like they flipped over half of their roster, which now I look at and say, boy, I like the starting pitching. I absolutely love that bullpen. And if that 1 through 9 can just stay healthy and hit the way we know they can hit, Joe, that team can certainly do some damage.
Yeah, and you got to love it because, again, Mason Miller is under contract for a couple of more years here. Suarez, their current closer, is not. He's going to be a free agent at the end. But you add some pop there, like you said, and Ryan O'Hearn. Laureano has been absolutely crushing it. You get some catching depth, too, now. And, oh, by the way, you kept Dylan Cease, even though we kept managing to hear that that was going to be a trade piece. You can get Nestor Cortez from Milwaukee to eat up some innings. Once again, the Padres did exactly what they needed to do, and in order to chase down the Dodgers, which is the ultimate goal for them.
I'll tell you what's also incredible, too, is you try to line things up, and it's like the playoffs. Usually in the past, it was always about, Joe, your starting pitching. And for some degree it is. If you have frontline starters, they can go 6 to 7 innings in the playoffs. But how many times have we seen quality pitchers leave the game after 2 on and 1 out in a 1-1 game in the 3rd inning, where you just have to piecemeal that bullpen for 5 to 6 innings, and you're able to do it. And even in fashion now is once you get to the World Series and later, like the NLDS, the ALDS, the ALCS, the NLCS, you even see bullpen days in the actual rotation as opposed to a starter in the biggest games here. You fortify that bullpen. You can mix and match and go up against any batters that you like. I really like what the San Diego Padres have done. And also, the New York Yankees, sure, you're always looking for an extra bat in the lineup or starting pitcher, but the Yankees yesterday, Bednar, Doval, Bird, coming into that bullpen here. If Williams can get it together, you can go toe-to-toe with anybody again. I love bullpen arms and Bednar, the best one of there for the Yankees.
Well, I mean, it's good. You got Jake Bird, you got Bednar. The last one was the Camilo Doval there at the end from the Giants. All of these guys at any point, they miss bats a lot. All of those guys do. And that's something the Yankees certainly need. And this is coming off the heels of adding some depth with the bats. And, of course, I think Ryan McMahon, huge addition, not only offensively, but defensively at third base, a position that's really bothered the Yankees over the years. Now, all of a sudden, you better score early on the Yankees because you may not be scoring late.
No doubt about it. Other notable Major League Baseball trades yesterday, the Rangers picking up Merrill Kelly as a starting pitcher, the Red Sox getting Dustin May from the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Tigers getting Mr. Reliable Charlie Morton, the Rays getting Griffin Jackson here. Again, that sell-off feels like it certainly continues there up in Minnesota. The Mets getting Cedric Mullins in the outfield and also Willie Castro, the Cubs. So you look at some of those moves, they don't seem like they're tip of the iceberg. Now we're going to go for it, but quality players in there that can certainly, Joe, help you down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
listen, the Mets needed started pitching, but like we had said, there isn't an awful lot of starting pitching out there. So they also needed, an improvement in center field. They got that in Mullins, picking up Helsley and Soto and Tyler Rogers in the back end. All good stuff here for both New York teams.
Yeah, and also other trades there. And again, there were a lot of them, a flurry of trades. Obviously, the big names that we know about that went through, the Tigers getting Finnegan and also Paul Sewald. You take a look at the Phillies with Harrison Bader in the outfield, tried to swing a couple moves for some different outfielders. They settled here. And again, the selling point of the Minnesota Twins. Brewers picked up guys, Rangers, Phil Maton. The Rays get Adrian Hauser, which is interesting. He was pitching really good so far in the season. The Royals get Mike Yastrzemski here. Jesus Sanchez, as we talked about, the Astros picking him up from the Marlins. So a lot of teams chaining a lot of players yesterday, some trying to get under some mysterious salary cap like Minnesota, and other teams saying, we're going to press this in and try to make a wild card race here, Joe.
Yeah, and that's exactly what this trade deadline has become there. Not a lot of teams tipping their hands, a lot of teams waiting until last minute, but a lot of good. There's also some big names that we heard about for weeks leading in that, well, they didn't go anywhere, including Dylan Cease and a pitcher in Miami that we might see this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Alcantara's still sitting there, but also the Padres were making all these moves. Going, okay, that's fine. They're going to trade Suarez here out of the bullpen. They kept him as well. Dylan Cease was that hot name that you talked about yesterday. He didn't move here, which is good for the Padres. They are basically all in trying to track down the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, the fun part about this is going to be is, sure, how do these teams play in the short term in the first couple weeks of August, these fun new lineups that we get to take a look at? But let's reset the marketplace and which numbers changed at the sports books here to say, all right, are they really a Major League Baseball contender for a World Series? We'll hit those topics next, right here on the Early Line on a Friday morning. Mark the movement, people, on the Early Line on a Friday morning, because we always take a look at the season, right? Ooh, we have a lot of fun from, February and March and lining up the World Series odds. And once teams take the field in April and early May and then the All-Star break. But the big one here is the trade deadline, because teams do improve themselves. I always used to talk about the Los Angeles Dodgers, Joe, saying, the team that they're going to have now, not the team they're going to have at the deadline, similar to many teams. Same thing with the Padres. I think the Padres are a better team today. I think the Yankees are a better team today. I think the Philadelphia Phillies are a better team today. Same thing with the New York Mets. So the haves and the have-nots, as we like to talk about. But if you look at some of the odds, particularly with the Dodgers, how about this, though? The Dodgers were a plus 220 price on Monday to win the World Series. The Dodgers today, Joe, they're a plus 240 price, and I want to start there. Because so many times, including myself, we always figure that the Dodgers at the trade deadline will win the day. More money to spend than anybody else, more prospects than anybody, and they feel they have a need to fill. They're going to go out and get the best prospect. Now, granted, if it maybe was the bullpen, they didn't really want to fortify because I think they have a pretty good one, understandable. There weren't unbelievable bats out there in the marketplace outside of Eugenio Suarez, and maybe they didn't want to just dip into that prospect pool to get that player. But it's interesting to me where, like, the first time you see it, outside like a losing streak, like the Dodgers lost a price point. Why? Because a team in their division got really good, and that was the Padres, Joe.
Yeah, well, exactly. And the Padres, and again, AJ Peller, one of the most aggressive general managers in all of Major League Baseball. And you got to love that if you're a Padres fan, then there's no question in your mind with this GM that if he thinks he's got a shot, he's going to be pushing chips all in. He's going to do whatever he's got to do to make this team better. It has been more exciting with Padres baseball over the last 3 and 4 years, Donnie, than it has been in a very, very long time. But ultimately, it's going to come down to, because the Dodgers didn't do a whole lot. I mean, they kind of, they had a little bit of depth. They got rid of Dusty May. They, okay, great. Is it enough? Is going to be the question. Is it enough for the Padres, who ultimately in the postseason, even with all those high-priced names and players over the last couple of years, still couldn't catch the Dodgers? Will it be enough this year, especially with Ohtani coming back into the rotation? Is going to be interesting.
I'll tell you what, too, because you take a look at Glass now, who looks like he's back. You're going to get Blake Snell
Hmm.
back. If Otani stretched out into a starter, like things are really looking good for the Dodgers. So you don't really have to add on too much because whose roster spot would they be taking? That's why they get rid of May yesterday. It's like, hey, we got some pitchers coming back into the lineup. We can't all just have 7 or 8 man rotations. Some people have to be on the move. But as we take a look at that move on the Dodgers, Joe, at a plus 220 price to plus 240 as of this week, the exact opposite, taking a look at the bottom of this graphic here, it's the Padres. A 32-1 price now sits at 19-1. Yesterday, when those flurry of trades were going down, you see the 27s to 1, the 25s to 1, the 22s to 1, all disappearing yesterday. I really like what the Padres did. Does it translate onto the field? Does that mean automatic victories here? We're not so sure of that because we don't have a crystal ball. But I agree. If you're looking for the biggest price drop yesterday, and rightfully so, it was the Padres. They fortified that team yesterday, and it looks like they're saying, we're coming for you, Los Angeles.
I'd love to know what Met fans think about how somehow their odds got worse. And yet they had, I thought they did a great job yesterday. I mean,
Yeah.
especially leading up here, I thought they addressed exactly what they needed to address here. I think Cedric Mullins was a great pickup. Helsley, Soto, Rogers, fortifying that bullpen. Your starting pitching is your starting pitching here, but you still got to be able to hit. You still got to play some defense. I think the bullpen's an improvement. And yet the Mets somehow lost ground is interesting to me. But again, you still got to play the games, Donnie. It doesn't matter what teams look like on paper, does it?
No, it doesn't. And you take a look at some of those moves here because they do go in different directions. Tampa
Mm.
Bay was a 55-1, and now they're
Yeah.
110-1 because they don't care about winning. It looks like they're just selling and where are we going to move to and how we sell this baseball team. San Francisco is like, hey, we'll get Rafael Devers a couple weeks ago. Let's see if we can make something happen. They made absolutely nothing happen. They go from 75-1 to 150-1. Why? Because we know the Dodgers are good, and the Padres are like, good luck trying to keep up with us now as we just got a brand new roster here of feels like all-star talent.
Yeah, Tampa was interesting, right? I mean, Caballero ends up,
Yeah.
we had it yesterday, right? Had to switch dugouts there,
Yep.
got pulled from the game. It's like, hey, dude, you're in the other locker room now. You're a New York Yankee. Sorry about that. But they got rid of Taj Bradley, but they picked up Adrian Hauser. Like, what is Tampa doing? You got Griffin
I
Jacks,
don't
maybe
know.
one of the best closers that nobody talks about. So what are you, Tampa? I'm still confused as to what they're doing here, Donnie.
Getting a closer for a team that doesn't really need to close out games or make a playoff run. Always a smart investment there in Tampa. We'll take a quick look at the World Series odds, then take a look at some of the division leaders next, right here on the early line. Let's get some visuals, Joe Raineri, here on the World Series odds to see how they play out. We'll get to the divisions here and the teams that are the haves and the have-nots. How do they apply that pressure in the month of August and September on their way to a playoff run? If we look at the Dodgers, we just talked about them at a plus 240 price, but now in second in the odds market here, tied up here with the New York Yankees, it's the Philadelphia Phillies. So you go Dodgers, Phillies, Yankees, Tigers, and Mets, 10-1 or less. Any interesting looks at these price points? Because if you felt your team was going to make a move yesterday, your odds probably got better here, and away we go.
Listen, I'm just going to say it here because we've talked about it in the past. Of all those teams, there's one team on that list, honey, that has already proven they can steamroll the Dodgers when necessary. And that was the Brewers. Yep. And, listen, it's not like they got worse by any stretch because the Cubs, what did they do? The Cubs needed a few things as well. And it wasn't exactly a huge banner trade deadline for the Cubs where they got so much better. I still think the Brewers are some value here, and maybe even more so now because they the bullpen Shelby Miller they got Danny Jansen from the Rays, so they got some backup and depth with the catching spot. I mean, the Brewers at 17-1, they're the only team, by the way, that has proven they can beat the Dodgers in any series.
Yeah, bring on the Dodgers, man. Beat them at home, beat them on the road, handle them in the playoffs, yeoman's work efforts here. Because if we focus on the National League and take a look at the leaders right now in the clubhouse, it's the New York Mets by a half game over the Philadelphia Phillies, the Marlins 9 back, the Braves 15.5 games back. Those teams aren't going to factor in down the stretch. Then you have the NL Central, which is the Milwaukee Brewers, a 1-game lead over the Chicago Cubs. And don't look now. Let's put this focus once again on the NL West because we see those numbers for the Padres getting shorter here. The Dodgers numbers increasing just a bit. Why? The Dodgers are 63-46, Joe, in the season. Only a 3-game lead over the Padres, who have themselves at 60 wins. They've also won 5 games in a row, starting to put the pressure on the Dodgers. All those flurry of moves and activities here at the trade deadline really paying dividends. We'll see if they win again tonight as a favorite. But do you think that there's a chance now? Because throughout the summer, throughout the spring, it's always going to be the Dodgers. They're still going to win. I still think it's going to be the Dodgers. But now I see all those moves at the Padres meeting go toe for toe. Like, boy, I like everything about the Padres. Why can't they close that gap of 3 games, Joe, over the final 2 months of the season?
Yeah, they very well can, but they haven't. And history tells us that they end up falling short no matter how much money they spend or what they end up doing. So is it the right combination? And Donnie, that's it. Is it having such a loaded back end of the bullpen? Is that the way to beat the Dodgers, who are going to come into any series against the Padres, Donnie? And who's got the advantage starting pitching wise? What good does your bullpen matter if you're always trailing and you're never leading? And the starting pitching advantage for the Dodgers, by the time we get to the end of August and September, is going to be significant over what they've got. I will say this: Michael King is on his way back, by the way, for the Padres starting rotation.
Big news. Big news there. And keeping Dylan Cease, you get him back into form. That's a pretty good team here as we laid out. But if we do look at each one of those divisions, the NL East, the NL Central, and the NL West, Joe, it looks like it's 2-man races all the way through. As we said, Mets, Phillies, Brewers, Cubs, and now the Dodgers and the Padres. The Giants, 9 games back, 6 games in a row. We just talked about their odds absolutely plummeting down. But if I ask you today, and you say, all right, comfortability here, is it the Dodgers to win the division? Is it the Brewers to win the division? Is it the Mets or those second-place teams, Joe, that we talk about, the Phillies, Cubs, and the Padres? Who are you most confident right now today, August 1st, that you can say will win their division in the National League?
Yeah, well, I don't know what else the Mets could have done to improve what their situation was, because there really wasn't a frontline starter that was going to be a game changer for them available, but they addressed everything else. But listen, the Phillies needed one thing. They needed a closer. And what did they do? They went out and got one of the best relievers in baseball over the last, 3 years? So, and he's under control, by the way, through, I think, 2027. So,
yes.
And that to me was a deal all about Philadelphia competing in September and October. You've got a ton of veterans. You got a ton of big bats there, guys that have been there and done this. The Phillies, to me, should be the favorite to win the National League East, I think, and be very dangerous come playoff time because of that experience.
We'll see if that team can stay healthy. The Phillies notorious for playing decent baseball in the summer and then ramping up in September. You don't want to go backwards like they did last year, getting a little bit ice cold before they hit the playoffs. If we do look at the National League pennant odds, it is the Dodgers, still is the favorite at a plus 130 price, followed by the Philadelphia Phillies at plus 480, then the Mets at a plus 490, Chicago Cubs, Brewers, and the Padres now cut their number down to 10-1. The Dodgers gearing up. If they just stay healthy and get their players back from the IL to perform the way we think they are, they're always going to be the favorite here. The Phillies have unbelievable starting pitching, now fortifying that bullpen here. Robertson's coming into that rotation here in the month of August. I believe he's set to return, after his minor league stint, August the 5th. Alvarado mid-month here. Now, Alvarado can't pitch in the playoffs, but he's certainly going to help down the stretch. And then you got Duran here from the Minnesota Twins. It's a decent bullpen now, which was one of those parts. It's like, they might struggle down the stretch, turning that into a positive. The Mets are always going to be out there. They're talented 1 through 9. Chicago Cubs still waiting on those starting pitchers for me, but the Brewers, it feels like to me now, like the Brewers and the Padres, those wild cards at 850 or higher. You say, I'm just going to go with the top teams. Like, no, there's legit talent there on the Brewers and the Padres that can do some damage if they see the playoffs.
Yeah, and the problem with the Cubs is that it just feels like, it seems like everybody ahead of you got a little bit better, and it kind of felt like you were kicking the can down the road and you were happy with like Michael Soroka and Kittredge or Will Castro's a nice pickup, but none of this is moving the needle compared to what everybody else already has or went out and got here at the trade deadline. So I think the Cubs kind of, you snooze, you lose. And I'm not happy with what the Cubs did here at all.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting as it plays out because that's a talented team, like 1 through 6, 1 through 7 in that lineup, really good. But the pitching seems like it's always going to leave them out at this point now. But if the Phillies get hot today, they're actually going to take on the Detroit Tigers coming to town. Flaherty's on the mound. You'll probably get Skubal this weekend, a huge series for them. But now that we see these rosters in motion, we start to play it out. I talk about it in the key word today. The haves and the have-nots. A lot of these teams that we're going over today are the haves, and certainly the expectations have been ramped up. When you enter into that locker room, Joe Raineri, today on a Friday, when your team made trades to bolster that bullpen, fortify the starting pitching staff, add a couple bats, the expectations are raised, and the Dodgers understand this as well. The Padres raise the stakes. They're gunning for the Dodgers. The Dodgers better be on their A game. The Phillies and the Mets, they are going to teeter-totter the rest of the way. August and September, first place, second place, first place, second place. And the same thing with the Cubs and the Brewers. Those two teams going toe-to-toe in head-to-head matchups should be a lot of fun to play. But now that we see these teams looking and motivated to win a World Series, let's see how they play out over the next couple weeks here.
Yeah, again, this is where experience comes into play, right,
Yeah.
Donnie? So it's the Dodgers, they're the champions. They have been, they know every time they walk into a different city or anytime a team comes to their ballpark, they're going to get the best. Everybody wants to beat the Dodgers. That's part of being a World Series champion here. The question is anybody going to do it? That's the big question, because the market seems to think no.
No, certainly it does. You're going to start to separate. But also, those teams sort of left out, right? You look at teams like the Cincinnati Reds and the Giants who got their act cut in half, what you will. Is there anybody that we feel could make a charge into those standings here in the NL pennant race that you go, you know what? Maybe the Reds do get lightning in a bottle and charge up the standings. Or does it look like we're just set here? We got our top 6 and we're ready to go.
Yeah, I think it's very top heavy, and I think that's a byproduct of baseball pushing for parity. Well, you got a lot of parity. You got a lot of very mediocre baseball teams, including the Reds, and then you have the haves that are still that top third of the board there, Donnie, and the winner is coming from that group.
Circle the wagons, people. Down the stretch they come. We'll talk AL next. Let's focus on the American League because a little bit different in the standings that we see some really close races in the National League. If we look at the division leaders, Joe, as it currently stands in the American League, the Toronto Blue Jays 3.5 games clear of the New York Yankees, the Detroit Tigers 9 games clear of the Cleveland Guardians, and then in the AL West, which is going to be some entertaining finish here, the Houston Astros 4.5 games clear of the Seattle Mariners and 5.5 games clear of the Texas Rangers. The Mariners and the Rangers are playing right now. So we see with those division leaders, how confident are we, Joe, that the Blue Jays, the Tigers, and the Astros will carry the day and win their divisions?
I think there's battles everywhere. I mean, the only team that is in the position A, Donnie, to actually win their division is Detroit, without a whole lot of fanfare there, just because who's catching them in the Central. But Toronto is far from a given that they're going to take down the American League East. You've got, obviously, what's going on in the West with the Astros and the Mariners and now the Rangers. That's going to be a battle to the finish. So outside of Detroit, nothing. A lot of this whole board could look a lot differently, Donnie, in about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. And all those odds could be different. So I wouldn't be jumping in on Toronto now, because I'm not convinced they're the ones winning the American League East when it's all said and done.
No, exactly. And if we're taking a look at, like, Detroit's not vulnerable. Like, the Guardians, the Royals, the Twins, the White Sox, they're not catching them. I don't think they blow a 9-game lead with 2 months to go. But if we do look at the Toronto Blue Jays as compared to the Yankees and the Houston Astros to the Mariners, it does feel like the Toronto Blue Jays are the team that is a little bit more vulnerable. But if we do put our focus on the AL West, this is going to be an unbelievable finish. The Rangers are healthy now. Pitching staff intact. Lineup looks as good as it did day number 1. They just have to produce now. You take a look at the Seattle Mariners at the trade deadline. Eugenio Suarez, Josh Naylor. They've already have a very good pitching staff here. And also Cal Raleigh leading Major League Baseball in home runs. The Houston Astros, who do get Correa there, waiting for Alvarez to come back into the lineup. They do have talent. But I just look at this and say, you know what? Like, even the Rangers, 7-3 in their last 10 games, even they lost their last game last night to the Mariners 6-0. It feels like one of those 3 teams And I want to say like any team can win it, but Donnie, 5.5 games back, 4.5 games back, the Astros should win it. I get that. And yes, they have a 4.5 game lead, but I won't be surprised if you tell me any one of those three teams wins the division. They're that talented. If I had to put my money today and say, you know what, remove the Astros, it probably is going to be the Mariners because I'm so excited the way that lineup moves now and the lineup looks and also the good vibes around them. Like, I really think the Mariners can do some damage over August and September and get in there.
Yeah, listen, all those teams that you just mentioned, especially in the West here, Seattle and Texas, these are teams that got better today. They are better today on paper than they were 24 to 48 hours ago. And listen, Houston had a need and they addressed it getting Carlos Correa back. But again, what version of Carlos Correa are you getting? And that's the big question. So there are some reinforcements on the way. They will get some pitching help back there. But again, you got a Texas team that is just a couple of years removed from being World Series champions. They underperformed the entire first half of the season, but now they're starting to put it together, and they are a better team today, and so is Seattle. So I wouldn't exactly be celebrating an Astros American League West division crown just yet.
Yeah, remove the Central out, focus here on the East, focus there on the West. We're going to have some pretty good races as we enter into the month of August. But if you look at the pennant odds here in the American League, you have a dead heat at the top right now, plus 360, plus 360. That's the New York Yankees and the Detroit Tigers. As you see that graphic, they've shifted even this morning. The Toronto Blue Jays, plus 430. The Astros, plus 440. Look how tightly compact these four teams are. So if I give you right now, Joe, you have the Yankees, the Tigers, the Jays, and the Astros. One team to put your money on. Which team out of those four are you putting your money on?
I'm putting it on the Yankees. Yeah, I think that they have put it together. Judge, by the way, looks like he's already taking batting practice. So apparently this little stint on the 10-day IL will be just that, and he'll be back before you know it. I like the moves the Yankees made. They weren't going to go out and replace Garrett Cole, but they are getting Louis Heel back. Max Fried looks like he has figured it back out. The blister is not an issue. You know, you still have Rodon, and now you have a bullpen where what do you need from your starters? 5-6 innings, if that. So I think the Yankees, because I'm not buying the Shane Bieber thing. Is Bieber coming to be like, what did you do, Blue Jays? You got a bunch of second tier arms coming in, and that's not going to compete with what the Yankees just did. So I think the Yankees are still the team to beat here.
And again, just like we talked about the National League, it's like the Reds are on that cutoff point, but it feels like we have our top six. If we list the odds in order, Yankees, Tigers, Blue Jays, Astros, Mariners, and Red Sox here, along with the Rangers. It's like, okay, well, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. After that, it's the Rays at 47-1 currently here on the board. If we look at the cutoff line, the Red Sox and the Rangers, if you had to put your money on the team that sneaks into that final wild card spot, Mariners, Red Sox, Rangers, but more of the focus on the Red Sox and the Rangers. Who's one of those two teams that, you know what? Who's in, who's out?
Yeah, listen, I think we're going to get nothing but Ranger money, I think, from this point on here as the team that can go. Yeah. And I agree with it. The Red Sox, great season, great job. But this really for the Red Sox is about, bringing along that young talent that they have. It is the future here. It is not about trying to take down the other teams in front of them here. So already it's a win for me for the Red Sox this season, but I wouldn't be placing money that they're going to make some sort of giant push here over the final 2 months.
Yeah, there are a couple teams that you certainly want to get invested in. We talked about those price points here. They are all lumped up. But if I had to choose like one team, Joe, that's like, am I getting fool's gold here? Like of some of the top teams, doesn't it just feel like, and again, I like the Blue Jays. I like to bet them on a day-to-day basis. I like their lineup all the way through. They're a competitive team. They were in first place in the AL East. But when I look at that price point at plus 430, I just feel like getting sold a bill of goods. Like, man, you bet on Toronto. They're 5 games back at September 21st. Like, that's the team that feels like could trip me up, Joe.
Yeah, and I think Detroit, too, is fool's gold. And I've thought it for a while now. And they're going to get a lot of money, Donnie, and I'm not buying the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, what Joe's trying to say is the Philadelphia Phillies open up a series tonight against the Detroit Tigers, which your boy DRS will be there. An easy victory for Ranger Suarez and the boys tonight? I think that's what Joe just said. Major League Baseball, full slate of action today on a Friday. Love to see it. Only 3 games yesterday. Trade deadline, haves and have-nots, and away we go. But we have a caveat for this weekend here. And maybe it's the Atlanta Braves getting all excited because they're basically out of the playoff race. They didn't really make any deals yesterday. Marcell Ozuna still, I believe, in the lineup, possibility for an early day game. You say, boy, wonder why they're playing an early Friday game, because Saturday, the Speedway Classic takes place, Joe. Have you heard about the Speedway Classic?
Yeah, it's it goes in the same way in the category of what they were doing at the Field of Dreams in Iowa, right? It's I don't want to say a publicity stunt, but it's basically a PR opportunity to try and get, fans involved in Major League Baseball that otherwise might not catch a game anytime soon in such a crazy setting. It's a cornfield, and now it's a NASCAR track.
How about this, too? Because I'm taking a look at some of the viewing of the stadium itself. It is massive out there. It really is. And it looks like it actually fits in there pretty well. Now, some of the information that went through from NASCAR's reporting is materials that went into effort were 340 tons of infield clay, 450 wall pads, 17,500 tons of rock, 80,000 square feet of backstop netting, 124,000 square feet of Diamond Series AstroTurf, and we have the final product, 330 down both lines, 400 to dead center. So it's a generic field itself, but the atmosphere is crazy. Now, I haven't, because it takes place tomorrow. Do we have any idea, what the ticket sales are for this one? Like how many people have bought tickets for? Because I'm just trying to find the layout. What do we got? What is
85,000 they have sold.
Wow.
85. Yeah. They said the venue holds 90, up to 90,000, but in attendance, I guess it breaks the all-time regular season game attendance record. More than 85,000 tickets have already been sold to this.
Woo. And by the way, Braves fans got to be hot. Hey, playoff run down the stretch. No, this is your consolation prize. Made no moves really at the deadline here. You're folding up. Ronald Acuna, who even knows if he's coming back for the season, but certainly an interesting way to have that. I wonder where you'd like to sit, too, because I don't think a home run could reach the stands here. As I look at some of the graphics, which is kind of interesting. So I don't think that can happen, but I would be interested to see how many home runs we get. Does the ball travel there? Remember we went to the London series, all right, the field looks average. It doesn't look too bad. You might as well thought it was Coors Field half the time. The balls were getting pummeled into the seats.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be a very hot and humid day, I would imagine, Donnie. So I would imagine the ball is definitely going to be flying out. But listen, it's going to be an all-day event. I mean, kudos to Major League Baseball continuing to try and grow the game and try to hit different audiences. I mean, how many opportunities are folks in Bristol ever going to get to see a Major League Baseball game without having to hop in a car and drive forever or go to, hop on a plane? So you got to appreciate the effort here by Major League Baseball.
It is a really neat venue, but also understand this. I just read you, what went into building this field to have one Major League Baseball game. It tells you two things: how flush Major League Baseball is with cash, and then trying to tell the players we need a salary cap. And number two, it's all of that work for one game. You couldn't, I understand you're not going to have a home stand there for 9 games, but you couldn't have hey, the series is at Bristol, because you would have got the people like Braves fans, Reds fans, or just baseball fans, or even, NASCAR fans. Let's get the RV down there. We'll pull up early on a Friday morning, Friday game, Saturday game, Sunday, exactly what NASCAR does. NASCAR doesn't show up on a Sunday hey, we're here to race. It's a whole week of the sprint circuit, the truck circuit. They do a lot of things at those racetracks in between with different races here. I think Major League Baseball could have done that, Joe.
Yeah, they could have, but they also, I believe, partnered with a whole bunch of different companies that actually helped put that field together. So it wasn't just Major League Baseball writing the check. It's all sponsorship money that went into that. I mean, they partnered with turf companies, Fox, of course, I believe there's a title sponsor there too, that buildsubmarines.com, if you can believe it. There are a whole lot of sponsors. And when you sell 85,000 tickets, Donnie, you understand why people are lining up to sponsor an event like this.
Now, it looks like it doesn't really impede the track. So could we get a NASCAR race going on while the baseball game is going on, too, for the price of one right there? Come on now. Yeah, get the little sprint cars out there.
Yeah. I love the musical acts, though, too, Donnie. I mean, the musical act is great because we've got, I believe, Tim McGraw. Jaco
Okay.
in, and of course, I
Ah,
mean, what says Tennessee like Pitbull?
Shabuzi.
So this should
Yeah.
be a
Oh,
very
oh, Pitbull.
interesting. Yeah, yes, absolutely. So this should be an interesting day. Musical performances as well as a Major League Baseball game inside a NASCAR track. Who'd have thunk it?
All right. See a picture. I think that was Chipper Jones in that picture standing next to the car looking good.
Mm.
Maybe he can get some cuts in this game since the Atlanta Braves certainly are out of it. Let's get to some day baseball today, starting at 6:45, August 1st. Yes, it feels good to say that. The Detroit Tigers and the Philadelphia Phillies, a key series. The Phillies trying to get in the first place. The Tigers staying in first place. Flaherty's going to be on the mound against the lefty Ranger Suarez, 973, 974 on the rotation. A favorite overnight, Joe, right around that minus 145 to 140 price point. It's higher now. 152s, 155s, even 160s in the marketplace. But a total overnight 8 dropped to 7.5. The Phillies back after some changes made. Detroit's in town. Second half, technically, here we go. What do you see tonight out of the Phillies and the Tigers?
Yeah, I see a pretty good battle, but I'll caution
Yeah.
Detroit. This isn't the Arizona Diamondbacks that you're playing here. This is going to be a little bit of a different animal. Plus, it's going to be on the road. Both these teams, if you're Philadelphia, you got to be excited. You've
Yeah.
addressed your issues in your bullpen.
Yep.
You know, you're going to be looking to be in a spot to use your new shiny toy, hopefully. And I just don't trust Flaherty. I don't trust the Tigers. I think Philadelphia gets it done here, especially with Suarez on the mound at home.
By the way, like it is the dog days of summer here. We were getting blasted
Mm.
in the Northeast here with a lot of heat, humidity, and rain. Today, only a high of 74 to 75 degrees, so a little bit cooler with a light wind blowing in from right field. If we look at some interesting analytics in this game, Jack Flaherty's got a 3.46 xFIP over the past 45 days. Ranger Suarez, 3.66, very good. But look at this. The ERA for Suarez, 2.91. ERA for Jack Flaherty, 5.61. Do the analytics actually work in the Philadelphia Phillies' favor or the Detroit favor, or is it just that ERA that we take a look at? But a good game tonight in South Philadelphia at Citizens Bank Park. We're going to handicap Houston, Boston, Texas, Seattle, and Kansas City and Toronto next right here on the early line. Two teams vying for the playoffs are going to play tonight in Boston. That's Houston and Boston. That's Hunter Brown on the mound here for the Houston Astros, taking on Cooper Criswell of the Boston Red Sox, 965, 966 on the rotation. A 7 o'clock start tonight that showed overnight a favorite here towards the Houston Astros, around a minus 130 price. Now we're seeing those numbers still in the 130s, but more in the higher levels of that, minus 136s, minus 138s across the landscape. A total, Joe, that opened up overnight at 8 and still sits this morning at 8. The Houston Astros and the Boston Red Sox today from Fenway.
Opening of a 9-game road trip here for the
Oh,
Astros, and it's got to feel good to get away because they have been horrific at home lately here. In July was not a good month, Donnie. They couldn't seem to get anything going at home, and they've been a great home team. But good news for them is Altuve is really starting to kick it up here now, and he has absolutely been crushing the ball. I like Houston. You got to like Brown on the mound, the advantage that they have as far as the starting pitching going. And we already know the bullpen advantage for Houston. Kind of hard at this price not to like Houston, but I do think it's going to be a close one. So, yeah, you know, a home dog has been pretty profitable at this price range to back over the last month or so. I'm just not buying Boston. I think Houston's the right side here.
yeah, revamped team as well for Houston. You take a look at the first 3 batters anticipated. How about Jose Altuve leading off once again? Love to see that. And then Jesus Sanchez, who they acquired in the 2-hole. Carlos Correa in the 3-hole. Now, we don't have the exact starting lineups. This game's not going to take place for a few more hours, obviously. But if we're looking at that lineup, it looks better today than it did yesterday. They just have to perform. And you're right. Hunter Brown, better pitcher than Cooper Criswell. Not a lot of seasonal statistics on Criswell. If we look at Brown's last 45 days, he's a strikeout guy, Joe. 10.45 is his strikeouts per 9, which is really good. That's 1+ per inning. You look at his ERA, it is a little high at 4.03, but the analytics love him because he's a strikeout guy, a 3.30. So we look at that price point to say Houston is the favorite. I agree they should be the favorite, and maybe just getting out of town here can certainly make the difference. And also, the good vibes in the locker room. Carlos Correa is back. What could go wrong? Well, we'll find out tonight when they take first pitch, at 7:10 Eastern. Game number 2 we're going to take a look at today. That is Texas and Seattle. Nightcap 10-10 start out west. Did you watch last night? That new look Mariners lineup, 6-0 victory over Texas, a division rival. Today, it's going to be Jack Leiter taking on Logan Gilbert. 969, 970 on the rotation. A heavy favorite here for Seattle, Joe. Overnight, minus 175s, as you see on the graphic about to pop up on the TV side. We're as high as minus 190s now in the marketplace, and a total of 7.5. 6 runs for the Mariners last night. Didn't get over because their pitching staff was fantastic. 7.5 is a total today. Monster favorite and better pitcher for the Mariners. I think the Mariners are taking care of business again tonight, Joe.
Yeah, it wasn't a great week last week for Seattle, and they just couldn't seem to get anything done in Sacramento against the Athletics. But you know, they got a little bit of rejuvenation and life in them there with the trade deadline and the players they picked up, and they showed it last night. And now Leiter is a guy that's going to be pitching for him to remain a starter, because now that Texas has got Merrill Kelly, you know, it's either going to be Rocker or it's going to be Leiter. Somebody's going to the bullpen here to come out of that. So this is a big start, I think, for Leiter here. But Logan Gilbert was the ace to start the season for Seattle. I don't like the price, though. I think it's a little pricey at home. I like the Texas Rangers. I'd even be willing to take them on the run line in this one.
Wow. How about this, too? About Logan Gilbert's last 42 innings over the past 45 days. How about a 13.07 K rate here? He's been on fire. His ERA is slightly higher, but his xFIP pristine at a 2.82. We'll see how it plays out tonight. Kansas City and Toronto. Waka, waka, waka on the mound for the Royals, going up against Kevin Gausman. 961, 962 on the rotation. This line, 158s overnight, 155s overnight, 162s to 165s now in the marketplace, and a total listed for Kansas City and Toronto at 8 across the board. In the 6 today, Toronto and Kansas City. Toronto, got to keep on winning, people.
It's crazy how many trades and how involved Kansas City was at the trade deadline, is it not? But they've actually been swinging the bat. They've been scoring some runs. They've actually played pretty darn well here. Listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Waka and the first 5 under has been absolute gold all season long. I see no reason to do it. He doesn't give up a ton of barrels. I think he limits Toronto here for a short period of time. Yeah, I'll take the first 5 under 4 in this one.
Should be interesting, too, because every single time we look at the Toronto Blue Jays, that lineup does project really well. But Waka, as you said, his last 30 days, how about an 0.58 ISO against and a weighted on base percentage against of 236? Absolutely spectacular. Let's start to have some fun. Keep on hitting the diamond. And away we go on a Friday on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri and Donny Rightside here, having some fun breaking down the Major League Baseball card today. New York, live from Citi Field today, a 7:10 start. That's the San Francisco Giants taking on the New York Metropolitans. Robbie Ray, the left-handed starter for the Giants, going up against David Peterson, the left-handed starter for the New York Mets. A 7:10 start here. A favorite overnight was roughly a pick'em. Minus 120s, minus 125s. We're now seeing the graphic at a minus 136 on the screen. But how about this? Minus 145s at most of the outlets out here. A total of 7 overnight has increased to 7.5. 2 lefties on the mound. The Mets still in first place. Big series for them. And we talked earlier in the show about the San Francisco Giants odds plummeting to win the World Series because they can't win baseball games anymore.
No, they can't. But what a great opportunity for the Giants to get some revenge here. Don't forget, Donnie, I mean, this is going to be the 4th, 5th, and 6th game that they are going to have played over the last 10 days because the Mets swept them at Oracle 8-1, 2-1, and 5-3 last week. So they're going to have an opportunity to get a little revenge. The question is, who's hitting the ball here for the Giants? Are they going to hit any better than what they had been the last go-around against this Mets team, where they didn't score a whole lot of runs here? Peterson's been great for the Mets. Robbie Ray has been great for the Giants. Feels like maybe a first 5 under for me. I think it takes a little while for the bats to get going in this one.
Yeah, it should be fun to watch this one play out because you look at left-handed pitchers going up against that San Francisco Giants offense. Remember, like, hey, we got Rafael Devers in the lineup. I think the worst team in baseball since they got Rafael Devers. And you look at the lineup itself, outside of Willy Adames, who's got a 632 ISO power number against left-handed pitching over the past month, which is incredible. The rest of the lineup stinks, Joe. Like, it's really bad. Weighted on base percentage is all well below 300. Where do the hits come from? And we just talked about the Philadelphia Phillies and the Detroit Tigers. Northeast, same where the Mets are going to be playing today against the San Francisco Giants. 72, 73-degree temperatures here as the high, getting cooler as the night moves on. We'll see if that has an impact here. But new week, new money, new month, new money. Same thing for the Mets, man. They got a couple new toys to try to play around with here with the San Francisco Giants. We'll keep moving down the list as we go. That is going to be St. Louis and San Diego. Liberatore is on the mound, the left-handed pitcher, going up against Nick Pivetta. 959, 960 on the rotation here. A 940 start tonight. The favorite overnight, right around a minus 145 price. The graphic on the screen, you'll see minus 158. It continues to increase, Joe Raineri, to a minus 185 and higher at different outlets. A 7.5 total across the board. San Diego, when we talk about a lot of new toys for the Mets, they have the entire toy store to play with tonight. And it looks like the bettors are saying, yeah, it's time to back those Padres.
Yeah, I listen. The vibes in that locker room are going to be pretty intense there for the Padres. And in the meantime, on the other side, the Cardinals, they were in sell mode. They made everyone available, and you kind of knew that was the direction they were going. Great first half of the season, but they kind of overperformed here a little bit. I think this is a tough spot for them, but I do think the Padres are going to win. I think they're going to win big too as well. So I got no problem. I'm not running the wind on a lay, a run and a half against for home teams here who I think are going to win. But I think this is going to be a big win for the Padres tonight.
Yeah, we take a look at some of these pitchers here over the past 45 days, and we start obviously with Nick Pivetta. He's top 5 on the pitching card today for me, Joe. 38 innings pitched over those 45 days, a 1.82 ERA and a 3.38 xFIP number. You take a look at Liberatore, he stacks up decent, 3.73 ERA, which isn't terrible, but that xFIP number is over 5. You take a look at Nick Pivetta over the last 30 days against the batters he's faced, Joe, 119 of those. How about an 082 ISO, a weighted on base percentage of 211, and a K rate of 25%, and a very manageable walk rate? You look at the lineup tonight. Donovan's okay. Burleson's okay. Contreras is okay. Those guys were actually at the trade deadline up on the market, still decided to stay in town. But if you look at San Diego's bats now, this is where you might want to jump on board. Matthew Liberatore, as we said, is a left-handed pitcher. His K rate, Joe, 11% over his last 63 batters. If you're not striking guys out, the ball's in play. Walk rate, also 11%. Not good. ISO power against, 275. Horrendous. Weighted on base percentage, 442. You see for Tatis, Machado, Bogarts, Laureano, Iglesias, Cronenworth, all high numbers against left-handed pitching. I'm with you. And we have a buy segment at the end of the show today. Got in a little bit of a nice price here because I told you it is running away, and rightfully so. I don't see too many people looking to back the St. Louis Cardinals today and the Padres. Hey, look, Pivetta doesn't go that long, 5 or 6 innings. If those bullpen arms are available, lights out in San Diego. Let's keep it out on the West Coast here. Actually, we'll keep it with a West Coast team, but coming to the East Coast. And that's down in your neck of the woods in Tampa Bay. The Dodgers taking on the Rays. Clayton Kershaw, the left-handed pitcher, will be on the mound today going up against Shane Baz. 977, 978 on the rotation. A 735 start. 145s to 146s overnight, as you see on the graphic. But now we're starting to get some buyback here on Tampa Bay, Joe. 130s, 125s, and a total that's listed at 9. Dodgers and the Rays from Tampa today.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Rays had to play. They're one of the few teams that played yesterday, and while they lost, and then they lost one of their mainstays as well, as he had to actually leave their dugout, get pulled by the game, pulled from the game at Gaviero because he had just been traded to the Yankees, which is another underrated move that they made. But to me, the Dodgers coming into town here, the Rays going the wrong way, not really sure what direction they're heading. Yeah, I like the Dodgers here to get it done. This is a game I would definitely lay the 1.5, although it is feasible to lay it on the money line as well.
Clayton Kershaw, not bad over the past month and a half, Joe. 32 innings pitched here, 3.94 ERA and a 4.34 xFIP number. We take a look at Shane Baz, 48 and a third innings pitched over the past 45 days, a 4.10 xFIP number and a 3.80 ERA, and then into the xFIP numbers. If we look at the weather conditions, let me just see if we can get a vantage point down there. Steinbrenner Field today, 88 degrees at first pitch, Joe, with the wind blowing out to right field. So I think that also does make a little bit of sense. But getting back into the fold, Joe, we take a look at so many of these games that we're handicapping today, and I do feel like the taxes are starting to rise. Like we talked about that San Diego game momentarily, and that 140 overnight where the bettors go like, wait a second, one team's trying to win, the other team's really not trying to win. Good pitcher on the mound, good lineup, good bullpen now. Where do I sign up? So those 140 prices go up 40 cents overnight. Now, let me ask you this too. We see these prices go up, and good series for really good baseball teams, Joe, is winning 2 out of 3 games. Like the common thought is, oh, the Dodgers should just go into every series and win all 3. That's not the case here. They lose series, and they certainly don't sweep all of the time. So when you're betting these dogs where the white flag is up in the locker room, going against a team that's saying, my general manager and my front office gave me the tools to win and the vibes are high, how do you bet these dogs in the month of August and September?
It's very hard. You got to pick and choose your spots here. I certainly wouldn't be picking them early on after the locker room looks completely different than what it did just a week or so ago, whether they've been living up to expectations or not here. But let's face it, a lot of these teams that threw up the white flag, they had been playing like the white flag had been thrown up for most of July, Donnie, which is why a lot of these teams were sellers. Do not expect some sort of crazy turnaround, home dog or not, here in this spot.
Yeah, again, like winners and losers, like we understand. It's the same thing like the offseason. Hey, the best offseason team in the NFL typically stinks in the regular season because the good teams have the continuity with the head coach, the coordinators, the players in the organization for a long time, as opposed to that shiny new toy that you do bring in. But I look at the Padres, man, they got more shiny toys than anybody else. And as I said, I'll be in the ballpark tonight in Philadelphia. Maybe a new shiny new toy gets in to close that game out with Duran coming out of the bullpen. But it's fun. It feels like it's a like refreshed market where you waited from the All-Star break, which we can't stand. And teams get fat and lazy over the All-Star break. Then it leads into the deadline where guys are getting calls left and right for days in advance. Hey, what do you hear from my agent? What do you hear from this? Maybe I have to move to a new apartment. Maybe I have to buy a new house. Maybe I'm in a new city at this point. Maybe I'm going to be living out of a suitcase. That all weighs on those guys. So even the teams that are waving the white flag, if you didn't get traded, all right, I can settle into the rest of the season. The guys that did get traded, at least you know there's a finality, and they can get used to their new environment, their teammates, and certainly the ballparks that they do play in. So good times around in Major League Baseball, at least we hope there for the month of August. Tom Vecchio joins us next. Let's get some intel from TV Tom. Major League Baseball. It's August. Yes, we understand that we had football on our TV last night with apparently nobody watched outside of me and Joe Raineri, according to the polls across the street here. But it is what it is. But we do have baseball. But we got to get some of that knowledge here. There's a great baseball show that comes every single Sunday on this network, certainly throughout the month of August, where it's Tom Vecchio and a guy named Donny Rightside, 10 to 12 a.m. You should not be missing that show on a week-to-week basis. If you did, shame on you. But now, it's Donny Rightside, it's Joe Raineri, and Tom Vecchio right here on a Friday to keep you updated right now. Tom Vecchio on a Friday, post-trade deadline. How are we feeling out there?
That's right. The dust has settled for all this. Some odds have changed along the way. Last segment, you guys were talking about, how do you approach dogs? How do you approach whatever? I would say betting early and honestly betting the night before, like as soon as the game's lines come out, I think that's the time to bet. Like, I have the Cubs at, minus 106, and they're up to minus 146 as of now. Bet them last night. So betting lines early for favorites, at least, I think that's a great way to approach things moving forward.
It's such a smart move, too, because we have a buy section next year, which, again, we do those handicaps a lot earlier in the day than when the show actually goes on. And there's about 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 cents that you can save. So, Tom, giving some very good advice. If you know that favorite tomorrow, the public is going to like them. That number is probably only to go higher. Now, does it win? That's the question, but you always want to beat that number, and that's certainly a way to do it. Yesterday, we do have the dust settling here at the trade deadline. There were a lot of winners here, and it looks like most of the teams, Tom, really getting after their bullpen. One of those teams was the New York Yankees, and I guess the prize piece there was David Bednar. I love when a team loads up on the bullpen because as we've seen, Tom, over the past couple of years in playoff baseball, it's not even really about the starters anymore. It's bringing in your bullpen like the fourth inning and being able to carry it through. Yankees bolstered that bullpen yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of teams did that. The Yankees, the Mets, the Phillies, the Padres getting Mason Miller. Like historically, the line or the quote that I would use would be like, "Oh, if your name wasn't DeGrom, Scherzer, Kershaw, Garrett Cole, whatever it might be, those starters we know can go 5 or 6 innings. But outside of that, it's more just like, okay, give us 3 or 4 innings, and then we're going to turn it over to the bullpen. And when you bring in all these extra arms, it's like, okay, if you give us 5 innings at a minimum, we can then have 5 or 6 different relievers come out situationally to handle the next 4 or 5 innings if it goes into extras, whatever it might be. And that's always great to see. The Yankees also made some good moves, bringing in Caballero, obviously improving their defense, which has been a massive issue for them this season overall. But they're also expected to get Luis Gil back. I believe he's going to pitch Saturday or Sunday. If he's Sunday, Donny, of course, you and I will break that down. But they should have gotten another starting pitcher. But getting Gil back plus the bullpen help is massive.
There were a couple of teams too, Tom, where I'm like, what are you doing, Cubs? Like, I don't, you're good with everything that you got here because you're already trailing Milwaukee. And I also don't understand what Tampa is. Are you a buyer or are you a seller? Like, what are two very head scratching teams here at the trade deadline? How about you?
Yeah, the Cubs I would like to see just a little bit more, especially from the pitching perspective, knowing that they're competing with the Brewers. And, when the Brewers can throw out there Freddie Peralta, Brandon Woodruff, who's back, and Mizorowski, in a 3-game series, if in a wild card, if you give me Peralta and then Miz, and then, okay, you have to bring Woodruff out of the bullpen, it's like, that's a pretty good 3-pitcher tandem to go for. So, like I said, I like the Cubs today, and that's largely just because they're going up against the Orioles. The Orioles have 6 roster spots to fill before today's game starts because of all the trades that they make. So they have to make 6 call-ups, essentially. So outside of that, and again with Tampa, again, Joe, which direction are you going? Are you buying? Are you selling? You're making trades. You're getting rid of Taz Bradley. You're getting players back from Minnesota. I don't like it overall. But again, it's kind of just a lost season. They started off super hot. They were great in June, and then they were terrible in July.
I want to put a quick focus before we get to some of your prop bets here, Tom, on the NL West, because it's fascinating to me. The Giants look like they're ducking out right now, losers of 6 straight games. Certainly no hope for them, but it looks like it is a 2-team race now where we always thought it was going to be the Dodgers, and can somebody come try to chase them down? The Padres were probably the biggest winner yesterday, at least in the odds market. They sit only 3 games back. Legitimacy on a Padres run to win the NL West? Is that possible?
I think so. And a lot of people are just saying, like, oh, it's the Dodgers,
Yeah.
It's the Dodgers. Like, we can't be winning against them. It's like, okay, well, Max Muncy still isn't back. Blake Snell's supposed to come back this weekend, if I remember correctly. Is he going to be at 100%? Tommy Edman is finally rounding into form. Mookie Betts is still struggling. Ohtani left early, and granted, that's not like a major injury from his last pitching outing. But, like, you need all the pieces to fall together at the exact same time. Glasnow is back, we know that. But if there would be a team to back, I think it would be the Padres, not just from the NL. I think it would be from an NLCS perspective, because essentially, if we look at the odds from the NLCS, the teams ahead of them, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Phillies, like those teams are going to cannibalize themselves. And if the Padres were to make it to the NLCS, that means 3 of those 4 teams are going to be lopped off, right? Like the Dodgers, Phillies, Mets, Cubs, and Brewers, those teams are going to eliminate each other prior to the NLCS. So if you want to back a team, I really do think it is the Padres.
Yeah.
Well, who you got here today? What'd you bet overnight for us, Tom?
Yeah, let's get into some stuff for today. The Guardians, I like today. Minnesota made a rash of trades, yesterday, and their team is just vastly depleted, on top of the fact that Byron Buxton is still on the IL. So their lineup is weaker, their pitching staff is weaker, their bullpen is weaker. Everything across the board is weaker. And yes, Joe Ryan is a great pitcher. I know he's involved in a lot of trade talks, but I'll be willing to back the Guardians, who are still in the hunt. They didn't trade Stephen Kwan. They didn't trade Clase, although they probably couldn't trade him. But I do like the Guardians to come through with the win today. And then let's turn to Royals, Blue Jays under 8 minus 106. I'm seeing right now that Gossman should be starting for the Blue Jays. And Joe, as we talked about the other day, Michael Wacha is on the mound for the Royals. He's a clear first 5 under pitcher. So I don't mind the under to start the game. And frankly, if it starts off and we do hit the first 5 under, getting a live over of over 4.5 or over 5.5, I think would be fine. And the Royals offense is not good to begin with. And if this does go over, I expect the Blue Jays to be doing literally 90% of the work in this situation.
It's Tom Vecchio there. By the way, this weekend on Saturday, we have a Speedway game down in Bristol, Tennessee. Did you handicap that one yet, Tom? Are you involved in that one?
I looked at the dimensions. So it's 330 down each line. It's 402 direct center. So it is a smaller ballpark. It's probably going to be super hot there. I would say the over, expect some offense, and just be excited for the fun just because of the circumstances. And if we're going to be scoring 16 runs in one inning like they did last night, I think it should be an easy over.
It is pretty crazy that happened. 8 in the top of the half, 8 in the bottom half of the innings. Also understand this. Nobody's really the home team tomorrow at Bristol, which means those pitchers won't be used to it here. Tom Vecchio, thanks for joining us here on a Friday morning edition of The Early Line. The first day of August, you got to love it here. Football season is here. Major League Baseball swinging there. The WNBA is going to be closing down, their season in the month of September into October. Then also you take a look at college football. Now the calendar switch, right, Joe? You take out the manual, boom, you move it over and go, all right, August 23rd. That's college football week 0. So we have preseason football. Then we have August 23rd, we kick off college football. Week and a half after that, we're going to be in the regular season for the NFL. It is a very good time here, Joe, on the SportsGrid Network to make sure you're involved in everything. I'm enjoying this right now. I love August, but I love September even more, and October right behind it.
Yeah, feels like Major League Baseball hit a reset, too. Now we've got the final stretch here of the regular season into the postseason, and we are now just weeks away from college football and the NFL. You got to love it. It's a great time of year.
Now, let me ask you this quick question on college football before we flip it over and get our buys in here. Is college football, we around the corner from them actually having like preseason games that they televise and sell tickets for like ESPN to say, hey, look, we could sell another package. Like the NFL does it, but the only reason why the NFL does it is because TV will pick it up, TV will pay for it, and the fans will be in the stands. Is college football ever going to get a preseason?
No, absolutely not. Week 0 is, in essence, the preseason,
That's
isn't
true.
it, Donnie? We never used to have now we were playing games over in Ireland with, Navy and Notre Dame. They've already made that move, in essence.
You know what? You do bring up a good point in that, too, because the thing that I love the NFL and I love college football. But if we just got to remove, you cannot play anybody in the regular season outside of your own conference, we would be much better off. We don't need to see Alabama, Samford, I should say, in week 11 of the college football season. Take those preseason games out and stack them and throw them away. Give me more talent at this point. Just the way it is. Just the way I wanted to pop off with a little soundbite right there. But it's time for bye, Joe Raineri. We got to let Joe rip it on a Friday. It's been red hot on bye, and no exceptions on a Friday. New week, new money. No, new month, new money. And Friday, it is payday, Joe Raineri. Get the people paid.
You got to love it. All right, well, keep it rolling here, Donnie. And I am Mr. Tom Vecchio stole my thunder a little bit, but I am in 100% agreement with him. In fact, I think the number is artificially low simply because of who the starting pitcher is for Minnesota on the road, and that is Mr. Joe Ryan, who, let's face it, has probably been going, all right, where am I playing? Because he was a conversation and a topic as a possible trade situation for Minnesota, who, by the way, kept him, but now they traded everybody else. They don't have Byron Buxton. They don't have anybody. This is going to be a whole lot of no frills. Minnesota has thrown the white flag up, and they are ready to move on. Now, Cleveland, on the other hand, I love Gavin Williams. I love him because he's home. He is a much better pitcher at Progressive Field than he is on the road. We've already seen Joe Ryan struggle against the Guardians earlier this year. I think 3 earned runs in 5 innings back in May. Yeah, there's nobody coming out of the bullpen to save Joe Ryan. There is no big bats. And this Twins roster currently constructed has a .395 OPS in 44 at-bats against Gavin Williams. I like the Guardians to start it off here on this final leg of the regular season with a big win at home over Joe Ryan and the Twins.
By the way, that logo for the Guardians on the screen right now, absolutely horrendous. I mean, can we just do a rebrand? Like, Washington's going to go through a rebrand here. We need a rebrand completely there for that Guard. Maybe the Guardians name has to go at this point. But as long as the Guardians win tonight, that's all we care about. You know what I'm going to go? Again, CLV. Before the show started, we're asked to give our buy plays in. I went with San Diego at a -155 price. They're as high as 189 in the marketplace at DraftKings right now, and a total that's listed at 7.5. I have the better pitcher on the mound. I'm going against a dead baseball team in the Cardinals. I am the home team with the Padres. I have a lot of new toys, as I like to say, in my bullpen today, and also a better 1 through 9 lineup. Pivetta gets the job done tonight. An easy walk-away victory for the Padres. Joe and Donnie end the week 2-0. on our best bets. I can feel it right now, Joe. I can feel it in my heart.
It ain't broke. We ain't fixing it. A lot of great opportunities on this Friday after the trade deadline in Major League Baseball. Pick your spots accordingly. Should be a good weekend.
Absolutely. And it looks like football and professional football turns 8-7, which is next week. And that's with Indianapolis taking on Baltimore. You take a look at Cincinnati and Philadelphia, Vegas and Seattle. And, more games there. How'd we do? I think we did pretty well. Thanks for tuning into the early line. Raineri and Donny Rightside. We'll be here bright and early Monday morning.